Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping by again. And in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make an off-shoulder top with a 720-degree peplum and a puff sleeve. And without further ado, let's get started. So guys, this is the material that we are going to use for this tutorial, and I used about 4 yards for this top. So in order to get started guys, we are going to draft the upper part first, and here I have the half scale bodies. If you don't know how to do this, you can just check my previous videos on this channel to check on how to draft that. And right here I have the chest line, and the next line here is the bust point, and here we have the waistline. So right here I'm just indicating chest line here. I made a mistake here, so I'll just go ahead and correct it. This is the chest line, okay, and here we have the bust point, and right here this is the waistline, just like I said earlier. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and determine how off we want our top to be, how low we want the off shoulder to be, okay. So I'm just going to place the tape measure at the start line, and I'm going to determine how deep we want the off shoulder to be. So you can go ahead and use 4 or even 5. For this tutorial I'll just go ahead and use 5, and I'll just indicate that with a straight line. So right here on this part I'm just going to go ahead and write off there. All right, we are going to be cutting that part off because we are making an off shoulder top. And the next thing to do is to create our dart. So I'll come to this waist area here, and I will mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4, and I will just indicate that here. Then I'll just go ahead and come to the bust point here, and I'm going to come down by ½ an inch. All right, then I'm going to join the point together. And right here I'll just go ahead and create the dart legs of ½ an inch on both sides of the line, and after doing that I'll just connect it to the point here. And after creating the dart, the next thing to do is to insert the body measurement starting from the bust. So here I'm just going to go ahead and input 1/4 of my bust circumference. All right, and I'm going to add 1.5 inches seam allowance to that. All right, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the waist. I'm going to input 1/4 of the waist measurement, and I'm going to return the dart intake. Then I'm going to add seam allowance of 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect the point together. And right here guys, I'll just go ahead and create the armhole curve. And the next thing I would do guys is to modify the armhole area. All right, because we are making an off shoulder, we don't want it to be too wide around the chest line, okay. So what I would do is just to come inward here by 1.5 inches. You can go ahead and use 2 inches, okay, but here I'll just use 1.5 inches. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and connect this point to the armhole area, okay, and I'll use my curve ruler to do that. And the next thing to do is to work on the neckline area, okay. You can just go ahead and leave it straight the way it is, all right, but I just want it to be a kind of curvy neckline, so I'll just come down by 1 inch. You can go ahead and come down by 2, but I'll just come down by 1 inch, and I'll link it together like so. And here I'll just go ahead and shade this part because we are going to cut it off later on. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut out the pattern. And right here, this is what the pattern looks like, all right, and I'll just go ahead and use it to cut the back piece also. So right here guys, I placed the front piece on a fresh pattern paper, all right, and as you can notice here, I did not add any zipper allowance to the back, all right. So I'm cutting the exact thing that I have here, all right. On this neckline, if you want the back to be straight, you can just leave it as it is, all right, but I'm just going to maintain the same neckline for the front and the back, okay. So I'll just cut off this part, okay, then I'm going to retrace the exact same shape on the front. I'm going to repeat it on the back piece. So right here we have both the front piece, and this other fresh pattern is the back piece. And I'll just go ahead and place the front and the back together, and I'm going to notch that part where we have the dart. So right here on the back piece, guys, I'll just go ahead and create a straight line on that part that we notched for the darts. Okay, I'm going to create a straight line and I'm going to create a dart here on the straight line. Okay, and the length of the dart for the back is actually 5 inches. And the next thing to do after creating the dart for the back is to come to the center back here, all right, and we are going to come to the waistline right here. We're going to come inward by 1/2 inch, all right, to create our back slant. Okay, so I'll just mark 1/2 inch right here and I'll connect it to the center line here. And I'm just going to go ahead and shade that part, and the next thing I'm going to do is to come up by 1 inch and I'm going to link it to the side also. And right now I'll just go ahead and cut off these shaded parts. So right here, this is the back piece and here we have the front piece. And so right now, guys, I've gone ahead to use the pattern to cut the fabrics. Okay, and as you can see right here, I added 1/2 inch to the neckline area and also 1/2 inch to the waist area. So what I'll just do is just to go ahead and pinch it like so, and I'm going to notch the dart area. And right here, guys, I went ahead to cut out 2 pieces because one is going to serve as the lining while the other one serve as the main piece. All right, and here this is the back piece. And right here also I added 1/2 inch to the neckline area and 1/2 inch to the waist area, and I also went ahead to add zipper allowance of 1 inch to the back. And the next thing to do, guys, is to go ahead and cut the peplum part of this top, and for that I have the calculations here. So guys, remember that we are cutting a 720-degree flare, and that is twice of 360-degree. Okay, so we are going to divide our waist circumference by 6.28, and in this case the waist circumference is 33 inches divided by 6.28 is going to give us the value of 5.2. all right, and because it's a double flare, we are going to be cutting this flare twice. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and divide our value by 2, and 5.2 divided by 2 in this case is going to give us 2.6, and I went ahead to approximate that to be 3 inches. Okay, so radius that we need for this waist circumference is actually 3 inches. So here I have the fabrics that I need for my peplum, and so I folded it into 2, and I'll just go ahead and fold it again into 2, making a fold of 4. So here I'm going to place my tape rule on the apex on the folded part of the fabrics here, and I'm going to mark 3 inches, which is our radius, all around like so. And the next thing to do is to indicate the length of the peplum. So I'll just go ahead and place my tape measure all the way around the curve in order to get the length of the peplum. And right here I'll just go ahead and cut out the pattern. And right here on the waist I'll just go ahead and add an allowance of 1/2 inch here. Then I'll just go ahead and cut off the excess. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut another peplum just like this. So right here, guys, we have both of the peplums right here. Okay, and I'll just pick a side and I'll open up one of the folded parts. So right here, this is what it looks like after cutting it, and we have 2 pieces of the peplum. And right now the next thing to do is to start working on this upper part. All right, we are going to go ahead and attach the lining to the main material, right? So this is the front piece. I'll go ahead and align the lining to it. Okay, and we are going to stitch it on the neckline, and we are going to repeat the same process to the sides. And also for the back, we are going to attach the lining, and also for the peplum, I'm going to cut a lining for the peplum and I will attach it to it. And guys, that's exactly what I've done here. I've gone ahead to attach the lining to the front and the back piece. All right, and this is what it looks like. All right, this is the back piece, and right here this is the front piece. And another thing I did was to go ahead and insert that on the front piece and also the back piece. And right here guys, this is the peplum. I went ahead to join both peplums together, all right? And I also did the same thing to the lining piece, all right? And right here, this is the joint part of the lining piece, all right? And right here on the other side, this is the joint part on the main piece, all right? So after joining it together, I then attach the lining to the peplum, okay? And this is what our peplum looks like right about now. And right now, I'll go ahead and align the front and the back together. Then I'm going to go ahead and stitch the side using the seam allowance we left. And here guys, that's exactly what I have done. I've gone ahead to stitch the sides together, and this is what the upper part is looking like right now. And the next thing we need to do is just to go ahead and align the peplum to the half length, all right? So I'll just go ahead and notch the center front of the upper part, and I'm going to align it to the center of the peplum. And after pinning it together, I'll just go ahead and stitch it all the way around. And here guys, that's exactly what I've done. I've attached the upper part and the peplums together, all right? And this is what our top is looking like at this moment. I would recommend that you add a stay to the peplum to give it structure. Although I don't have a stay, I didn't add any stay here, but I would recommend that you do that. Add the stay to the main peplum and even the lining, all right? It will give it a kind of structure that you would love, okay? All right. And the next thing to do, guys, is to go ahead and cut the sleeve. And for that, I've gone ahead to cut out the piece that we are going to use for the sleeve. And I'm going to be cutting both sleeves together at once. So here I have two pieces right here. And for the wideness of the sleeve, I have on fold 22.5, and that is about 45 inches altogether when you open it, okay? And my sleeve length is actually 13 inches from shoulder to my elbow, but here I have about 19 inches right here, all right? And that is because we are going to be adding casing up and down the sleeve. And even after creating casing on the top and the band of the sleeve, we are still going to have an excess of about 3 inches left on the sleeve. And that is because after adding elastic to the band, the sleeve is going to jump a little bit. So that 3 inches is going to make up for it, all right? It's going to make the sleeve to be very, very puffy, okay? So that's what the extra allowance is meant for. So right here, I'm just going to go ahead and create the allowance for the casing for the upper part here. So right here, this is where the elastic is going to sit for the upper part of the sleeve, okay? And right here on the open part, I'm going to indicate the seam allowance of 1 inch. And right here on the down part of the sleeve, we are also going to have an elastic here. And so right here, this is the upper casing for the elastic, and here is the lower casing for the elastic. And right here, this is our seam allowance, all right? And when you measure what you have left here, you are going to have more than 13 inches, which is for the length, all right? So here, this is the length of the sleeve, all right? That is the actual length, and the remaining part, like I said earlier, is just to allow it to be very puffy, okay? And right now, the next thing to do is to create the armhole. And in order to do this, I'll go ahead and fold the casing that we have here like so, all right? And afterwards, I'll just bring the top, all right? And I will align the armhole to the corner like so, all right? And I'll just go ahead and use my chalk to highlight the shape that we have on the blouse, all right? And that is going to form our armhole for the sleeve. And when you align the armhole of the top to the armhole of the sleeve, you see that everything is falling in shape, like it aligns correctly, all right? So I'll just go ahead now and cut off the excess here. And after cutting the armhole, the next thing to do is just to go ahead and stitch the side of the sleeve. Then we are going to go ahead and fold the casing of the upper part here and also the lower part. And right here, guys, that's exactly what I've done. I joined the side, then I went ahead to fold the casing of the lower part here, and I left an opening right here on the lower part for the elastic to pass into, all right? And here on the upper part, I also went ahead to create casing there. So guys, for the elastic of the upper part, I'm going to be using 10 inches. All right, so I'll measure 10 inches on the elastic, and I'm going to be cutting 2 of that. All right. And for the band, I'll just go ahead and measure what I have on my elbow, and whatever value I have, I'm going to cut an elastic for that. And so right here guys, I've gone ahead to insert the elastic into the casing of the sleeves, and this is what our sleeve is looking like at this moment. All right, and the next thing to do is just to go ahead and attach the sleeve to the top. All right, so I will just align the sleeve to the top like so, and I'll pin it, and after pinning it, it will look like this. Then the next thing to do is just to go ahead and stitch it all around. And right here guys, that's exactly what I've done. I've attached the sleeve to the top. All right, and this is what our top is looking like at this moment. And the last thing to do is just to go ahead and fix the zip to the back of the top. All right, and I'll show you what it looks like on the mannequin.